will reconvene the council meeting, the public hearing, I should say, of council. And just to pick up where we left off, we had a motion moved by Councillor Louis and seconded by Councillor Jang. Councillors had the opportunity to speak to that motion, moving the recommendations on item number 2 that were in the report. And we are ready to go to the vote on that item, on the motion. I will ask clerks to bring that up on our screens for a vote. That's the motion includes the recommendations in the yellow memo that was circulated by staff to council. And we have 8 councillors here, all 8 in favor of the motion, moving the recommendations in the yellow memo. So we have approved the recommendations in item number 2. And again, thanks to all those who've come to speak to this and raising the concerns on all sides of that issue. And thanks to the staff for all the work on this, the applicants, and we'll look forward to seeing the next steps as this proceeds from here. Thanks again, all of you, for attending on that item. We're on to our final item of the night, item number 3, which is the rezoning 5189, 5289 Cambie Street. Madam Clerk, can you read the application and summary of correspondence received, please?
Yes, this is an application by Cambie Architecture to rezone 5189 to 5289 Cambie Street from RS1 district to CD1 district to permit the development of 2 6-story residential buildings and 5 2-story townhouse buildings at the lane, containing a total of 134 dwelling units. A height of 19.3 meters and a floor space ratio of 2.55 are proposed. The Acting General Manager of Planning and Development Services recommends approval subject to the conditions as set out in the summary and recommendation of the public hearing agenda. Since referral to public hearing, Council has received 1 piece of correspondence in opposition to the application, and this represents all correspondence received up until 4 p.m. today.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. We have Graham Winterbottom here again, rezoning planner for Vancouver South Division, to present the application. We only have 1 registered speaker, and the report was thorough. Did you have anything you wanted to put before council?
No questions at referral. I have a brief presentation, but happy to waive it if council wishes to do so.
Okay, I think. Okay, we'll move to waive. Seconded, and all those in favor. Any opposed? And carries. So we'll waive presentation.
Okay.
And we'll get back to you with questions as needed. Are the applicants Bruce Ma, Pure West Holdings here, Robert Chikozy, and Sharon Seafelt from Chikozy Architecture? Do you wish to speak to the application or just respond to questions? Okay. I'll ask council if they had questions for staff or the architects, the applicants, sorry. No questions for council, so we'll go to the speakers list. And I have 1 speaker registered. Alan Buem is here, Riley Park South Cambie Community Vision Committee, as our registered speaker. Welcome back to the podium.
Yes, thank you. I won't make this a habit. Oh, sure, yeah. If things were otherwise, I think it would be much better. But anyway, I've got a couple. Okay, there are 2 concerns from the RPSC in regard to this application. Firstly, looking at the diagrams on the website, okay, and you've all seen them. This is our interpretation that I have 2 concerns. So this is the first one, that the north building seems to exceed the guidelines as outlined in the Cambie Corridor Phase 2 policy, Section 5.1.4. The section states that in general, a maximum building frontage of 150 feet is desired. The drawings show that this building has a frontage of 170. And really, why is this being permitted? Okay. And I guess the problem word is desired. And that goes to height, et cetera, when we talk about the corridor. Our second concern is with regards to the setbacks of the south building on 37th Avenue. The setback is noted at 20 feet. That includes a 9.85-foot cycling setback. The drawings do not clearly show the path. I mean, that's all we can go by. As an active cyclist, that is me, as are others in our group as well, we see a potential problem arising from cyclists proceeding west along 37th when crossing Cambie. If the cyclists are to access this path by crossing a sidewalk, then a problem may arise with pedestrians. And when the path reaches the lane, then there's a problem with vehicles exiting the lane. With 3 large complexes being built along the lane, i.e. this one and the 2 that are under construction at the present time going north, we see the 37th Avenue Greenway being used by hundreds of vehicles each day. Will the drivers be made fully aware of cyclists and pedestrians crossing the laneway? And what will be done to guarantee that vehicles proceeding east to Cambie Street obey the signage and turn right? Even now, vehicles ignore the signage and cross Cambie and turn left, i.e. heading north. Even if all the vehicles turned right from the lane, is the Greenway the best route? Don't forget that there are 2 schools in the area that already create heavy traffic volume twice a day. Once the RCMP lands are built out, what will the 37th Avenue Greenway be like? And we can also include then the Oak Ridge Transit site, which is a little off 37th. Yes, these are unknowns, but where is the evidence to show that the city's engineering department, along with the planning department, have given the area their attention?
Okay.
So the developer, I'm sure, can't really deal with the main concern. The 170-foot frontage, yes. The other applies to staff, and they've given the extra property for the path, but there's nothing on the drawings on the website that really shows this very clearly. And I think there's a potential danger there. I use the route quite often, and I cycle through town and what have you, and well aware of problems cyclists face. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Buim. Thanks for being here again for this item as well, and no questions for you. I'll ask 3 times on this one. Are there any speakers here for this item? We have one here. Tracy Moore is back. Welcome.
Thank you. Again, I'm speaking as an individual, not as the chair of Oak Ridge Langara area residents this evening. It's great to be able to start my speech tonight on a positive. So 6 stories at 64 feet, well, we can't ask for anything better than that. So thank you that we're getting 64 and not a higher measurement for the 6 stories. I'm going to actually make my speech a little bit briefer because Mr. Buim has already covered off a lot of the stuff I wanted to speak to, but just very briefly, I also noticed that 178 feet frontage is not within the 150-foot guideline. In the policy report, it mentions the architectural design responds well to the curved alignment of Cambie Street when it comes to the northern excess frontage building. I actually disagree with that. I believe as in buildings coming around a curve, as you're going around the curve, it'll be like, oh, you mean the building hasn't stopped? It's still continuing around the curve? So to me, it's actually going to feel even longer than probably even 178 feet. Something Mr. Buim did not mention I'd like to bring up is the heritage density at almost 8,000 square feet. That is a really large amount of additional density on this site. And then third and finally, because 37th Avenue is going to become even a more prominent avenue in terms of use, whether it's by vehicle, pedestrian, and especially with additional bike infrastructure, my hope is that there can be some additional engineering look at that particular southern part of this proposal. There was a number of months ago, there was a number of us from the neighborhood that met a number of staff, and as I was as a pedestrian crossing on the west side of Cambie Street, heading north as I crossed 37th, I was almost struck by a vehicle. There is a forced right turn as someone's driving from 37th heading east. They cannot drive all the way across to, say, the other side of Cambie or continue on to 37th on the east side of Cambie. They're forced to go south on Cambie, and that's almost where I was hit. So an urge, please, that engineering look at ways to try and improve that safety in that area as much as possible. I recognize that there's already a 10-foot setback from 37th Avenue, but maybe if there can be some additional design changes made to the actual street, that would probably be helpful in this particular proposal. Thank you for the opportunity to speak both times tonight.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. No questions for you. Are there any other speakers for item number 3? Last call. Any other speakers for item number 3? Seeing none, we will close the speakers list, and as we've had a few public comments, we'll close public comment period, and we'll go to any final comments from staff on this item.
None at this time.
Okay, any final comments from the applicant team before we go to questions? Okay, none there. So questions from council for staff and the applicants. Councillor Louie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 2 questions, recognizing that they are general guidelines specific to the frontage of 150 versus 170. What was the design rationale on the movement over that design guideline?
Would you like me to answer that question first before your second question? Sure. So as you noted, the 150-foot frontage is a guideline within the plan, within the Cambie Corridor Plan, and it's meant to achieve the objective of avoiding long, monotonous building forms. With this proposal, staff are satisfied that the frontage is highly articulated, and through the architectural design, they mitigate the length of the building. We're supportive of the curved alignment, which reinforces the alignment of Cambie Street in this location. We also noted that the courtyard separations and outdoor space on the site exceeds our typical 24-foot building separation recommendations. So we're satisfied that there's adequate open space on this site. It was a question that we asked of the urban design panel, specifically the length of the building and the frontage being over 150 feet. And we also received the support of the urban design panel due to the building articulation and the other points that I've noted.
Okay. Before you go, perhaps you can just describe to me, and you might not have this available, and I could have done it myself, but in terms of the overall approved of buildings, how many of them are over the 150 currently?
That I don't know offhand.
And how much consideration is given to the articulation of the street front itself, recognizing that we want to avoid the monotonous repetition, but the shortening of some building face and some lengthening also creates the effect of a differing and varied frontage. And so I want to understand what, not just on a site-specific basis, what it looks like currently, because I haven't gone on Street View lately or driven down the corridor lately, to look at what we've done in terms of the overall corridor.
I know we have other proposals that do exceed the frontage and building articulation and sort of subtle steps in the massing and things like that are factors we consider when we consider relaxing the frontage. As I said, I can't say offhand how many buildings we've...
Don't have a number of overall in the entire corridor. I think it's not a frequent occurrence. There are certain ones, but we look at them by site basis. This is a particularly unique site or curving with the geometry of Cambie Street. If looking at the look and feel of each of the neighborhood corridors throughout Cambie, it's a different feel in our mixed-use zone between 41st and 49th, which is a commercial area where the buildings are wall-to-wall, and it's a continuous frontage of retail shops. eventually. In this area, it's much more generous side yards and broken up in individual buildings. And as Marie, the development planner, explains, this building is fairly unique for the site with a larger courtyard, the ample open space, and the curved geometry on the design.
Just second question then was related to the traffic safety. And maybe just some comments in regards to the concerns that have been expressed. There you go.
Yeah, Alina Chang from Transportation. So regarding the setback, I think that was a question on 37th. So a large portion of that space is actually destined for a public bike share station. So the public bike share station would be closest to the building, then there would be the sidewalk, and then a cycle path which is closest to the road. So the cyclists are not intended to be directed very far off the typical path where they would be riding. They would stay close to the road. In terms of traffic to and from the lane, there was a transportation study that was done for one of the developments further north on this site, which did take into account all the future developments, including this site. And it estimated vehicle volumes of about 40 vehicles per hour at that southern lane between 37th and the lane west of Cambie. So in that regard, the volumes are fairly low. In terms of the safety at the intersection of Cambie and 37th with the forced right turn, we are re-examining that intersection, and we are planning to build what they call a protected intersection once we get all four corners of development around that intersection.
Thank you.
That's your time, Councillor Louis. Councillor Carr, questions?
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for answering the question about the 37th and Cambie, and I'm glad to see that you're re-examining that. I did notice in the UDI report, which is in Appendix D, that they suggested a pedestrian connection between Cambie and the lane. That's on page in Appendix D, page, well, I guess it's the last page, page 3 of that section. So have you pursued that? Sorry, I didn't follow up to see if it was in one of the conditions of approval.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find that note in the UDI minutes. This proposal is proposing a significant break between the two buildings, which would be a connection into the courtyard. And then on 37th, there is the additional setback, as Lena mentioned, which would be for a wider sidewalk and planting. So that would be the response to a pedestrian path, but it's on the south end in the courtyard. But currently, as proposed or recommended by staff, there's no path on the northern side of the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think that it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph at the end of the report from the UDI meeting. So page 3 of Appendix D. So it seems that pedestrian safety is something of concern to the community. So it'd be good if maybe you have either you have considered that or not considered it in terms of pedestrian safety. But since they brought it up, I thought I would. Also, in terms of the length of the building, the point has been made by our speakers regarding the 178-foot building frontage. So I'm just wondering, also from that UDI report, there on the northern building, they actually recommended, the UDI recommended that the building be extended to go around the curve on the northern building. So I'm wondering if the 178 feet is a consequence of the UDI's suggestion that from a landscape point of view and design point of view, extending into beyond the curve is desirable. And they, as I say, they recommended it. And that recommendation is in also page 3 of Appendix D. Yeah, the recommendation says related commentary. Say what's just below all the 5 bullet points at the top.
Okay. Yeah, I think what they meant by that was rather than having a sharp sort of angular cut at the end of the building, you would curve the balconies on the building It wouldn't impact the length of the building, so it's sort of a detailed design element. It's something we can explore at the development permit stage. But I mean, in general, the overall design was supported, and staff are supportive of the design as it stands. Maybe it's a kind of a subjective point to curve the balconies as opposed to make them angular. But attending the meeting, it was my understanding that that wouldn't impact the actual physical length of the building.
So it was already that long, and it was just whether the curve ended or terminated at the
rather than sort of ending like with a slice,
right.
a sharp end, to have the balconies curved. Yeah.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
All right, that's all our questions, and I will welcome a motion from the floor on next steps. Oh, sorry, I just bumped Councillor Louis. You were on the queue.
I'd be prepared to move the motion. I don't think much more needs to be said.
And a seconder, Councillor Jang will second. Anyone else to wish to speak to the motion from Councillor Louis? Seeing none, we will move to our voting screen on the motion. And we've got all 9 votes of council in and all in favor of the motion moving the recommendations, item number 3. So council has approved that. Thanks again to those who came to speak, providing more input, and to staff and the applicants for the work brought forward to council. And we have concluded this public hearing, all 3 items of business, and we need a motion to adjourn tonight.
So moved.
Councillor Jang and seconded by Councillor Louis. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. This public hearing is adjourned. Thanks all.